What's going on, guys? It's Luke here. Going to go through a weekly outlook for the week coming up. Today is Sunday, June 22nd. We're going to be looking at the week from the 23rd of June to the 27th of June. I'm actually redoing this video just because of the stuff that's happened with the war news and the bombing and all that stuff, which is obviously going to affect the market. I'd already did this video yesterday where I talked basically just on like a technical side, but when stuff like that happens, you can't ignore it, and you obviously know it's going to affect price. So we're still going to get into this and talk about the draws and liquidity, but we're going to have to keep in mind with the news, we're probably going to open with a huge gap to the downside, or we're going to have some type of manipulation and then go from there. Obviously, overall, I am bullish. Throughout the next couple months, I do feel like we're super close to all-time highs. I do feel like we eventually push there soon. But let's go over the technicals and everything just to kind of recap where NQ and ES are, just so you guys have an idea. So obviously starting on the monthly, we are still in bullish order flow. We obviously inversed this bearish FEG on the monthly, and the monthly candle for June is still bullish. So that's all we need to know. We look at the weekly's still in bullish order flow. NQ is still technically reacting off of this weekly FEG. It still hasn't broken above it. This could become a potential area for a retest later on, but just keep in mind it's still hovering in there. It's not really that relevant because we already had that reaction off of it. But the main takeaway here is that the weekly is in bullish order flow, and we look at the daily here, and as you can see, at the end of the week, we had a sweep of these lows on the daily. So obviously, regardless, like if this news didn't happen, I was expecting a bullish week for price to want to come up and take out this buy side right here. But obviously with news, you know, we're probably going to expect some type of sell-off. So let's just go over the draws and liquidity here. So let's back up here. In terms of sell side draws, we have this weekly low down here. And then in terms of weekly draws to the upside, we have this weekly high up here, and then we have this monthly high up here. Now going down to the daily, we have this new weekly low that just got put in, and then we have this daily low. So once again, in terms of sell side, we have this new weekly low, a daily low down here, and then this weekly low, which leads into a weekly fair value gap. And then in terms of buy side, we have this daily high, this weekly high, and then above that, we have the monthly high and the all-time highs. So obviously the order flow is still bullish. But yeah, let's go over to ES, kind of look over the same thing really quick, and then I'm going to talk about what potentially can happen with price here. So again, on ES, monthly's in bullish order flow. We inversed this gap. We actually came back in and retested it, and monthly's in bullish order flow. We look at the weekly, same thing's kind of happening pretty much with ES. ES is reacting off of that weekly FEG. It's just lagging slightly behind NQ because NQ's already came in up and taken this, but we see that the weekly's in bullish order flow regardless. In terms of draws on liquidity, we have these weekly swing highs over here. Now we go down to the daily. The daily's doing the exact same thing. Bullish order flow. We had a sweep of these lows at the end of last week, and regardless of if the news wasn't happening, I would have expected a push up to take out this low resistance buy side liquidity. But again, when stuff like that happens, you really can't be just going off technicals. You have to just be going off the momentum in the market and how news is going to affect everything, right? So again, let's just go over the draws on liquidity. We have this new weekly low that got put in right here. We have this daily low, and then we have this weekly low down here, which leads into a weekly FEG below it. And then in terms of buy side liquidity, we have a daily high, this weekly high. Then we have this daily FVG, which NQ already reacted off of. And then we have above that, these higher time frame highs and the all-time highs over here, right? So we are very close to all-time highs. ES is just slightly behind NQ because with this daily fair value gap, if you look over at NQ just reacted off of that same daily FVG and pushed price down. But order flow is bullish, but again, when we have news like that, I'm expecting some type of sell-off at market open, and you're just going to have to be careful. If you look here, we have all of this stacked up sell-side liquidity. So in terms of what I think price can do here, we're definitely going to see some big-time manipulation. So you're going to have to be careful and wait for price to kind of stabilize and see what happens. So something like this is definitely entirely possible. We do get a big sell-off. Maybe we come down and fill in we take out this weekly low, we fill in this weekly FEG right here, and then maybe we retest this monthly inverse fair value gap over here, come back in, and then we have a bounce from there. You know, this would take out a lot of low resistance sell side liquidity. We come down, have a sweep, and a reaction to the upside. Something like that is definitely possible. From there, obviously, we do have some buy side liquidity stacked up, and then we're very close to all-time highs, but we're probably going to see some type of sell-off to grab some sell-side liquidity. And I think that eventually if we can come down and retest into this weekly FVG, that monthly inverse fair value gap, something like that, I do feel like this would be a nice area for a bounce for price to come up from there. And obviously, if we end up trading below there, then we're going to be coming down for a while, right? So we're going to have to pay attention to these levels and just keep them marked out on our charts. The exact same thing with ES, right? So even though we are in bullish order flow, we could expect potentially for price to want to nuke down and come down and then maybe bounce from an area like something like this, which again would be a weekly FEG, something like this. You know what I mean? So I do think if we take out all of this low resistance sell side liquidity, we could see a bounce from down there and then could potentially continue up to take out these all-time highs eventually when the narrative kind of shifts. But just keep these areas marked out on your charts. Remember, in terms of buy side, we do have these stacked up highs. We have this trend line liquidity right here, but that's going to come into play at a later time. We're just going to have to see how this sell-off happens and then go from there and watch that lower time frame order flow and then kind of just see how everything flips. So again, for draws on liquidity, we have this weekly low, daily low, weekly low, leading into that weekly FEG. And then we have all these highs stacked up here leading into the all-time highs. And it's the same thing on NQ. We have a weekly low, a daily low, a weekly low, which leads into this weekly FEG. Potentially we can come down, see a sell-off, and then a bounce from there. We're just going to have to pay attention to that lower time frame order flow, lower time frame trend, and just kind of make our decisions from there. Just be cautious coming into market open. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of volatility throughout this week. We also have a lot of news, which I'm going to get into now. So let's look at the news here. So starting on Monday, we have flash manufacturing PMI, flash services PMI at 9:45, and then 10 o'clock we have existing home sales. So this is obviously going to be a very volatile day. If anything, you got to wait till after that passes, just kind of wait for the market to calm down and then see what happens from there. Tuesday, we have Powell testifying at 10 o'clock, and then we have CB Consumer Confidence and Richmond Manufacturing Index. So again, wait for that to pass and then see what happens from there. Wednesday, we have Powell again and new home sales, so we'll have to be waiting for after that again. Again, a lot of news this week, so we're going to have to wait for that to pass and then see what happens from there. Thursday, we have unemployment claims and some orange folder right here, and then we have pending home sales again. I'll just wait for that and then go from there. And then on Friday, we have core PCE price index, and then we have revised consumer sentiment at 10. So news literally all week. Just wait for the news to pass and keep an eye on your draws on liquidity. And just pay attention to the news. You don't want to be caught in a trade, where the news is going against you. So that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Just make sure, you're watching and paying attention closely and not forcing anything, because you never know what's going to happen in this market. We're going to have a super volatile week. So we're just going to have to make decisions kind of like day by day and just kind of see what happens. So that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Till the next one, give me a like, subscribe, comment on the video, follow me on Twitter, link in the description if you guys support the channel. Till the next video, see you guys then. Peace.